Today we're going to go over my Khora Prime build. Now, it is not a beginner friendly build. Now there's a lot that goes into this build, and I'm going to go over every bit and every little piece that actually makes it work. So now Khora's first ability is Whip Claw, which is basically what it sounds like. You've got a whip, and you're going to be smacking your enemies around with it. Your second ability is Ensnare, probably one of the best grouping abilities in the game. Cast it on a target, and it's going to eventually pull everybody in around it and group them together. Now you can, once you cast it, use your Whip Claw to not only do more damage, but refresh the little trap that you just cast. Now our third ability is Venari. Now that's going to be our subsume slot, but what it can do is you can command your little pet here. Mine's going freaking nuts right now. But if you hold your third ability, you can cycle between attack, between protect, and between heal. So you've got three different options there, little sub options, three different sub options. And then our fourth ability is the Strangle Dome. You're going to cast it, and then it's going to suck up any enemies nearby and let them swing around. And also, if there are enemies outside the Strangle Dome who are not caught into it, they're going to try and kill their enemies that are actually caught in the Strangle Dome. Now for this build, we got quite a few things to cover because we want to be able to sustain our energy. We want to be able to spam Whip Claw as much as we need to. We also want to be able to take a hit and not die instantaneously. And then we also want to be able to keep our energy pool up or not expend any energy at all. Now for the actual Khora Prime build, we've got Brief Respite up here so we can keep our shields up whenever we're expending energy, which we're going to be spamming Whip Claw quite a bit or Ensnare. We should be able to keep our shields up pretty easily with that. We've got Umbral Intensify for a little bit of extra ability strength. We've got Equilibrium so we can keep our energy up. We've got Overextended, so we've got a crap ton of range. Prime Continuity for duration. We've got Rolling Guard for more survivability. So if you get barbecued by an Eximus unit or something, you can actually roll out of that and get the heck out of there and save yourself for a second. Auger Reach for even more range. We got Pilfering Strangle Dome, so in case you want to get some extra loot, capture those enemies in your Strangle Dome, and you got a 65% chance of them dropping extra loot. Our main damage mod for our Whip Claw is Accumulating Whip Claw. So when you hit 3 enemies or more, you're going to give yourself an extra 35% damage bonus to extra Whip Claws, and that's going to stack, and it's got a decay of 10 seconds. And since Whip Claw counts as a melee weapon, we've got Arcane Fury, so we can get some extra damage with that. And we've also got Arcane Steadfast that will potentially give us a free cast and not use any energy when we're spamming Whip Claw and Snare or throwing down maybe our Strangle Dome. Then up here in the Excellence slot, I've got Handspring because I didn't really want to Formula again. So we're using Handspring, but if you want to put an extra Formula and maybe put like Prime Sure-Footed or something up there, it's all up to you. Now for Khora's abilities, everything's the same. We got Whip Claw on her first, we got Ensnare on the second. And then for her third ability, I replaced it with Eclipse, not for damage, but for some extra tankiness, so we can actually take 63% less damage. Now what you could also do, if you're not wanting to actually farm for any other items and you're just wanting to do as much damage as possible and survive as long as possible, you can take out Pilfering Strangle Dome and maybe put on another actual ability strength mod to increase your damage reduction through Eclipse. But that's totally up to you. You play how you want to play. Now, I do not have any flow mods on here for a bigger energy pool. What I am doing is out here for the Archon Shards, I've got 2 actual blue shards. Ideally, they'd be Tau Forged, but I don't have another Tau Forged. So we've got a Tau Forged for extra energy and a regular one for a little bit extra energy. And then for the 2 red shards, I've got melee crit damage. And then we've got extra casting speed with our Amber Shard. Now, the cool thing about Whip Claw is it's going to be using the mods off of our melee weapon. So we need a pretty decent stat stick, and I'm using the Ceramic Dagger with the Incarnate adapter on it. Now, if you want to see the evolutions, this is what I've got. We've got Gun and Blade, we've got Organ Reach, and we've got Absolute Valor for that extra crit chance. Now, this is the build that I use with Khora. So we've got Pointed Witted in the stance, we've got Blood Rush. So once we get our actual combo counter up, we get a crap ton of crit chance, and it's going to increase the crap out of our status chance. Now, the status that we're going for, as you can see over here, is gas. So we got Volcanic Edge and Virulent Scourge. So those not only are going to give us extra status chance, but it's going to give us that gas effect. Then I've got Sacrificial Steel for more crit chance, Organ Shatter for more crit damage, Prime Pressure Point for just some straight up overall damage, and then we've got Gladiator Might for extra crit damage. And then up here for the melee arcane, I'm using melee retaliation, so as long as my shields are up at least over 200, we're going to get a pretty decent boost to melee damage. Now we can't forget about our pets. Now with Khora, even though we subsumed over our slot 3 and replaced it with Eclipse, we still get to keep Venari with us. You can see that I've got Venari and I've got my Panzer with me. So let's go over the mods that we have for those, because we get some pretty significant buffs from these guys. Now our first pet we'll go through is Venari. Now most of these mods are a couple standard mods you want to have on here, just like Fetch, so you got a bigger pickup radius. Then you've got Pack Leader, so every time your melee hits, you're healing your companion, because you want to keep them up as much as possible. And then, now we get into some crazy stuff. We've got Hunter Synergy, which will give you 30% primary weapon critical chance added to your companion. So this will take 30% of your primary weapon and add it to your actual pet. We've got Hunter Recovery, so we can get a little bit of healing from our companions. We've got Restorative Bond, so health orbs will help restore more health and reduce companion recovery time. Now we're getting into the bond mods here. So we got Tenacious Bond, so headshot kills reduce companion recovery timer by 3 seconds. So that could be nice if you want to pull out your primary, get a couple of headshots. But what I'm using it for is down here at the bottom. If the companion's critical chance is over 50%, then you gain a 1.2 final critical damage multiplier. So that's where Hunter Synergy comes in. It's giving us 30% of our primary weapon's crit chance, which puts us over the 50% mark here. So we got 61.1%. And so that's going to give us the extra 1.2 crit damage multiplier. So for me, I'm pretty lucky. I got the Toward with the Incarnon adapter here. And I've actually got a Riven on it. So if you got a primary weapon that has a okay Riven on it, that gives you a buttload of freaking crit chance, it's good to use that. So this Riven right here literally puts me over 100%. We got 136% crit chance. So that's going to boost both my companions' crit chance above the 50% threshold. But if you don't have a Riven, what I've got for you here is if we look up for a certain bow right here, we got the Daiku or Daiku. Let's go ahead and throw that on there. Now, if you don't have this bow, you can go to your Tenno Lab in your dojo and pick it up from there. So it's got a base crit chance of 34%. Now, the only thing you need to add to this is critical delay. If you throw that on there, it's going to put your crit chance over 100%. So we got 102% there. Now, if we go down to Venari and we check the crit chance on it, we've got over 50% crit chance. So Tenacious Bond will be in effect. Same thing for our Panzer. If we go and look at it, our crit chance is over 50%. Barely, but it's over. So if you don't have a Riven, you can sub it out for this Daiku or Daiku bow, whatever you want to call it. We've got Mystic Bond up here, so we can potentially get a free cast with our Warframe ability. So after your companion uses abilities with cooldowns 5 times, you may cast a Warframe ability without expending any energy. So Mystic Bond will give us a free cast every once in a while. And we've also got Vicious Bond here, so companion melee attacks will strip some of their armor and spread it potentially to other enemies. We got Synth Deconstruct, and then we've got Synth Fiber, the extra standard stuff. Now for our Panzer, let's go to upgrade. It's pretty similar. So we've got Hunter Synergy, so we can get that extra crit chance, which will kick in with Tenacious Bond here. So we've got that extra 1.2 crit damage multiplier again. Then we got Mystic Bond, so we get the extra free Warframe ability cast. And then the pretty standard stuff you would have on a Panzer. We've got Fetch, Viral Quills, Panzer Devolution. I've even got Duplex Bond on here, so every time you expend 100 energy, which we're going to do that pretty easily, you can get extra clones of your actual Panzer to run around and do whatever they're doing. And then Synth Deconstruct. I've also got Vicious Bond on here. So in total, we not only have Panzer, but we also have our, you don't have to use Panzer. I just have a couple Forma in my Panzer, so it's easier to throw a bunch of mods on it. But also down here on Venari, I've got 2 Forma on it, but we've got Mystic Bond on Panzer and we got Mystic Bond on Venari, which will potentially give us a free ability cast along with this Arcane Steadfast Arcane, which will give us a chance to get a free ability cast. But another thing I really do want to mention is I am using the Nariman Focus School here. Now the reason why we're using this is because of the ability Power Spike. Now instead of your combo count completely disappearing, if you haven't meleeed anybody in a second, it'll decay. So you don't have to build it all the way back up to that 12 times. So remember that Nariman Focus School. It's really nice to have, especially if you're trying to do stuff with combo counts. And then also, let's go back to our primary weapon. I do have primary dexterity on here since we're mainly focusing on the Whip Claw. We can do melee damage, and we're going to actually get some increased damage with our primary if we decided to use it. Same thing goes with our Epitaph, or your secondary, whatever weapon you're using as your secondary. You've got secondary dexterity, and it also gives you extra combo duration on both of these, primary and secondary dexterity. So now, to actually play this build, what you want to do is you want to focus on getting your combo counter up, because that's where all your damage and your status chance is going to come from. So the easiest way to do that is just group them all together with your ensnare, and then go up and smack them a couple times with your actual ceramic dagger. Make sure you activate your incarnate form, because you can get some extra damage from it. Now that everybody's died, we got to go spawn in some more people. So since we activated incarnate form, we have to get our actual combo back up. Now let's get it up to 12 times. It's already up there. And now we can just smack people with our whip claw. Now whip claw, like I said, counts like a melee weapon. It's going to keep your actual melee counter up. Let's go ahead and spawn some more people in here. Group them together. Just smack them. Now, you're going to be doing crap tons of damage, and at the same time, when they're grouped together, you're going to be triggering that gas effect on them. So when they're all together, they're all going to hurt each other with that gas status, and it just works really nicely. Alright guys, that's the Khora Prime build. If there's anything that you would change in it, throw it down in the comments. Maybe we can try it out live on stream one day. Other than that, I'll see you guys next time.